Welcome to Love Lies Chronicles.
Support the channel by liking, commenting, and subscribing. I promise even more interesting stories. I used to think the weirdest thing about Madison was her obsession with oversalting pasta water. It was a harmless quirk, when I found oddly endearing. But I'd take 1,000 sodium-heavy dinners over what she became in the last year. Because now, when I think of Madison, I don't think of her laugh or the way she used to tuck her legs under herself when she read on the couch. I think of candlelit altars, of incense smoke and velvet tarot cloths, of the woman who burned down our marriage with a deck of cards. It didn't start that way. At first, it was just something she picked up after her mom died. Grief doing what it does, you know? People reach for whatever helps them breathe. Madison chose mysticism. She downloaded some astrology apps, joined a few spiritual Facebook groups, and started seeing a local energy healer named Taya. I remember the name because I mocked it once, joking that anyone named Taya who charged $200 an hour to wave sage over a person probably wasn't certified in anything but fantasy. Madison didn't laugh. She told me I was disconnected from the universal flow, and that people like me lived too much in the logical realm. I brushed it off. I figured it was a phase, something that would pass like all the others. I didn't get in her way. I didn't even speak up when she started rearranging furniture for energy alignment. But deep down, I never bought any of it. I told her straight, several times, cards aren't truth, Madison. They're paper and ink. You're just projecting whatever you want to hear. She'd just smile like I was some silly creature who couldn't possibly understand. That's because you're still asleep, she said once. I'm waking up. But she wasn't waking up. She was slipping further and further away. It got worse in the fall. I started noticing how often she mentioned a specific card in passing, the Lovers. At first, it was casual. Pulled the Lovers today could mean harmony. Then it became daily. Then it started coming up with names. Once, I found a card tucked into her leather planner. The Lovers, reversed. Someone had scribbled on the back in blue ink, A plus M equals fate. I stared at it for a long time. I didn't recognize the handwriting. I didn't say anything. Not yet. She started talking about soul bonds and karmic paths. She said we were probably just a transitionary connection meant to help her grow, not meant to last. I asked her if she even heard herself. She said I sounded bitter. I told her bitter is when you watch the person you build a life with start talking like they live on a different planet. One night, I walked past her office and stopped. She didn't know I was there. She had her headphones on, smiling. Not at a screen. At someone. She was FaceTiming a man. I couldn't hear him, but I heard her. Crystal clear. I know, she whispered. It's hard, but the cards keep pointing to us. You're my mirror soul. You're helping me step into my highest self. That's what matters. My husband, he doesn't understand. He's karmic resistance. Karmic resistance. I walked away before she saw me. I went into the bathroom, locked the door, and just stared at myself in the mirror. That was the night I realized she didn't see me as her husband anymore. I was a shadow she had to shed to reach whatever delusional destiny she thought she was owed. A week later, she announced she was going on a spiritual retreat. 3 days. No phones. Full energetic immersion. She was smiling when she told me. I'm finally going to break through. I think this is my cosmic initiation. I nodded. Calm. Still. Like my entire world hadn't just cracked open at the seams. Is this with the same group you've been working with? I asked. Her eyes darted for half a second, just a flicker, but then she nodded too quickly. Mostly, yeah. Taya, Arlen. Others. Arlen. So that was his name. I asked her if she was sure this was the right time to leave. That maybe we needed to talk. She shook her head. There's nothing to talk about right now. This is bigger than us, okay? The cards keep pointing to it. I stood there and looked at her like I didn't even recognize her face. She smiled. Maybe you'll understand one day, when your vibration is higher. And just like that, she kissed me on the cheek, light, like a farewell, and walked away. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed and scrolled through her laptop while she meditated in the living room. I had been ready to let it go, to wait and see. But now I needed to know. The laptop was unlocked. She never thought I'd look. Maybe because she thought I didn't care. Maybe because she assumed I wouldn't understand what I was seeing. But I did. There were emails, calendar invites, Zoom links, saved PDF tarot spreads labeled Divine Union Activation with Arlen, and folders, God, the folders. One was called Karmic Ascension. Inside were dozens of screenshots, photos, voice notes, and a video. I clicked play. It was her, lying on a bed, whispering into the camera. If he finds out, I hope he'll forgive me. But this isn't cheating. This is liberation. He's not my husband. Not on a soul level. Arlen is my home now. I closed the laptop. I sat in the dark for a long time. Then I stood up. And I smiled. She said the cards never lie. She had no idea just how right she was. The thing about Madison was, she never thought anyone could see through her illusions, least of all me. In her eyes, I was still the grounded, logic-bound husband who couldn't tell the difference between a chakra and a checkbook. But the moment I closed that laptop and saw the truth, unfiltered, explicit, undeniable, something inside me stopped trying to understand her. I didn't need to. I just needed to understand how far it went. I waited until she fell asleep on her yoga mat, mid-breathwork. Then I copied every file from her laptop onto a drive. Voice memos, photos, PDFs, session notes. Anything that looked like it mattered to her sacred little delusion. I didn't listen to it all, some things I already knew too well. But one recording caught my attention. It was a Zoom call labeled Taya, Group Reading for Divine Unions, Arlen and Madison. It opened with Madison and two other women sitting cross-legged, candles flickering behind them. Taya's voice was the first I heard, calm, melodic, the kind of voice you'd expect from someone who gets paid to tell people what they want to hear. I'm sensing a timeline split, she said. Madison, you're being pulled toward your soul mirror. Your current partner is a karmic anchor. You've already outgrown him. The camera panned to Madison. She was nodding, eyes glassy, smiling like someone being fed the exact poison they asked for. He's holding me back, she whispered. He doesn't get it. Arlen helps me remember who I am. I feel alive when I'm with him. And that's not infidelity, Taya added smoothly. That's fate correcting itself. There was clapping, like she'd just said something revolutionary instead of giving a woman permission to burn her marriage down. I paused the video and just sat there, my jaw clenched so tight I could hear my molars grinding. This wasn't spiritual awakening. This was escapism on steroids. Cult logic wrapped in lavender oil and Instagram mantras. And my wife? She wasn't lost. She was complicit, willing, eager to be told she wasn't the villain if she dressed her betrayal in the language of destiny. So I started digging into Arlen. Madison had mentioned him maybe twice before the retreat, the mentor, the energy twin. I assumed he was just some drifter with good lighting and better hair, but I needed facts. Real ones. The kind you could print and lay flat on a courtroom table. It didn't take long. The guy had a website, arlenasiens.com. It was exactly what you'd expect, glossy, vague, full of words like tantric alchemy and third eye weaving. His face was front and center, middle-aged, vaguely handsome, oozing the kind of charisma that doesn't hold up under daylight. He offered one-on-one sessions for sacred union integration, all at $500 an hour. Testimonials from women with names like Sapphire and Celestia claiming he helped them break free from matrix conditioning. I kept digging, and then I found them. A string of Reddit threads, Quora posts, even a Facebook support group, Soulmate Scammed, the Arlen stories. Turns out Arlen had been through this before. Multiple women. Same script. Same charm. Same damage. He wormed his way into their marriages through spiritual coaching, then slowly unraveled them, soulmate by soulmate, home by home. One woman claimed he took out a loan in her name. Another said he disappeared after she gave him her savings. He never stayed long. He didn't have to. They always handed him everything before he even asked. I wasn't surprised, but I was angry, not just at Arlen, at Madison, at how willfully she bought into it. At how easy it was for her to believe that some glorified con artist with a stack of crystals and a Wi-Fi connection knew her soul better than the man who had shared a bed with her for 8 years. The next morning, she kissed me on the forehead like nothing was wrong. Said she was getting her hair done for the energy shift. I nodded, watched her walk out the door like she hadn't already left weeks ago. I didn't say anything. But that day, I made 2 calls. One to a private investigator. The other to a woman named Chloe Langston, founder of the Arlen Stories group. Her voice cracked when she answered. I told her who I was, what Madison had done, and how far she'd gone. There was a pause. Then she said, "You're not alone. That man ruined my life." By the end of the day, I had 5 more names. 5 other husbands who'd gone through the exact same thing. One of them? He still had voice messages from Arlen mocking his wife behind her back. Another had video proof of Arlen at the same retreat center Madison was heading to. Every man had a story. Every woman had believed she was different. Every marriage was gone. We created a group chat, shared what we had, compared notes, timelines, hotel bookings. These weren't isolated cases. This was a system. A spiritual hit-and-run operation designed to leave believers in ruin and cowards like Arlen in profit. And Madison? She was next. That night, she walked into the bedroom glowing. She had done a live card pull on Instagram and said she received a sign. She said the Empress card came up, divine feminine awakening. I smiled. That's great, I said. You believe me? Of course, I lied. Maybe you were right all along. Maybe it really is fate. She beamed, hugged me, said this trip was the start of her real journey. I nodded and kissed her forehead. What she didn't know was that while she packed for her sacred weekend, I was already booking my flight. Same destination, different purpose. She thought the cards had confirmed her path. But what she didn't understand, what she never saw coming, was that I had read the deck too. And it didn't point to a divine union. It pointed to a reckoning. She left on a Thursday. Said she'd be gone 3 days. No service, no distractions, no obligations, she said. Just source energy and spiritual release. I helped her load her suitcase into the Uber. You sure you'll be okay without me? She asked, smiling like she was offering me a chance to beg her to stay. Positive, I said. You need this. I watched her leave like I was watching a stranger board a flight I'd never take. Then I closed the door, turned around, and opened my laptop. My flight was in 6 hours. I arrived in Sedona a day later, rented a car, and followed the coordinates Chloe had sent me. The retreat center wasn't really a center. It was a massive luxury Airbnb hidden on the edge of a red rock cliffside. Private. Isolated. The kind of place you'd book if you wanted to commit adultery under the pretense of soul expansion. Expensive too. I'd seen the Venmo receipts in Madison's phone backup. Arlen had her covering everything. Meals. Lodging. Even the damn chakra crystal sets for the other students. The private investigator I hired had already scoped it out earlier that morning. He left me a flash drive, a burner phone, and a single piece of paper with 5 words written on it. She's not even the only one. Turns out Arlen had invited 3 women to the same retreat, each one told they were his twin flame. Each one convinced they were the only one who had awakened his divine masculine. Madison was just the latest mark. And like the others, she paid for the privilege. Through a pair of binoculars from the ridge behind the house, I watched the entire first night unfold. Candles. Silk ropes. Mantras. Arlen did his usual dance, arms open, barefoot, quoting Rumi like it was sacred scripture. I saw Madison sitting at his feet, glowing, her face tilted up like she was staring into the sun. She held his hand like it anchored her to something cosmic. And then, after everyone went inside and the lights dimmed, I saw them come back out onto the balcony, just the 2 of them. She kissed him. Slow. Confident. Familiar. Like it wasn't the first time. I didn't flinch. Didn't even blink. Because I had already pressed record. The next day, I sat in a quiet cafe, sipping black coffee while organizing everything. I had every file categorized. Audio, video, text, and images. Labeled with timestamps. Cross-referenced with the public Instagram posts Madison had been feeding her followers. Day 1 of the Sacred Soul Merge. She posted that at 9:03 p.m. At 9:14 p.m., her shirt was off in Arlen's lap. I watched it all, once. Then I called Chloe. You still want to expose him? I asked. Her voice was a low growl. I've waited 2 years to burn this man's cult to the ground. Then I've got the match, I said. Together, we planned the live stream. Madison had scheduled a twin flame completion ceremony for Saturday night. She announced it to her followers as a once-in-a-lifetime energetic portal opening, promising that her divine counterpart would be present. She had no idea that the stream would be hijacked, that her final act would become her final undoing. Chloe worked with a friend in the retreat's media team, someone Arlen had screwed over months earlier. We had everything we needed: stream access, content switching privileges, admin control. And I had the content. Every lie, every kiss, every file. But I wasn't done. That morning, I visited the Airbnb myself. I knocked on the door wearing a white linen shirt, mala beads, and sandals. Looked like every other soul searcher on that ridge. Arlen answered. He didn't recognize me. Is this the Awakening Path retreat? I asked, voice low, harmless. He smiled like a snake with a scented candle. We're full this weekend, my brother. but check our website for next cycles. Ah, I nodded. Madison didn't mention that. His smile faltered for half a breath. I'm her husband. That smile vanished completely. Madison appeared behind him just as I said it. Her eyes widened. She froze, robe cinched at the waist, barefoot, cheeks flushed. What are you? I came for clarity, I said, with a calm that tasted like blood. Isn't that what this place is for? They tried to spin it, of course. Nothing happened, Arlen lied. We're just healing, Madison stammered. I looked past them into the foyer, where her shoes were tossed beside his, right next to an altar of burning sage and 2 intertwined candles. I'm sure you'll explain it beautifully tomorrow, I said. She blinked. Explain what? I smiled. The live stream. Don't worry. I've already scheduled everything. You just have to show up. And then I walked away. Back to the car. Back to the plan. That night, as the sun bled into the red rocks, I pulled up the stream interface. Madison's followers were already pouring into the chat, hundreds of them. Women with usernames like @AwakenLilith and @KundaliniQueen commenting things like, so proud of you, sis, and show us what divine union looks like. They'd see it? Oh, they'd see everything. The ceremony began. Arlen lit candles. Madison stood in front of him, arms outstretched, talking about her journey, how she had to shed the conditioning of traditional marriage to discover her truth. I waited until she said the words. My husband never saw the real me, Arlen does. That was the moment. That was the trigger. The live stream flickered. Then it cut. The next frame showed Madison in Arlen's lap, whispering into his mouth about how he awakens her throat chakra. Then a second clip, her naked voice memos. Then Arlen, texting 3 different women in the same hour. Then screenshots from his Venmo, showing he had scammed one woman for 10 grand the same week he told Madison she was the only one. The chat exploded. All comments like, WTF is this? Is this real? She was married? Madison's face, when the camera cut back, said everything. She realized what had just happened. Her hand shot out to close the laptop, her voice cracking. No, this isn't what. And then the stream died. I turned off my screen, closed the laptop, and exhaled slowly. She wanted divine truth. She just received it. In front of everyone who ever worshipped her delusion. She called me 12 times the next day. I didn't answer. The day after, 3 emails, 2 voice notes, and a 3-paragraph text that started with, I need to explain, and ended with, you have to understand. This was never about hurting you. I didn't respond to any of them. Because by then, the video had spread. Someone had screen recorded the stream, chopped it up, and sent it viral across every corner of the divine feminine world. Her face, bare, raw, and completely exposed, circulated with captions like another soul scam victim, karmic delusion caught live, and when your twin flame is just a fraud with Wi-Fi. Within 48 hours, she went from being a rising voice in the spiritual community to a walking cautionary tale. Her accounts were flooded with backlash. Not sympathy, not understanding, but rage, betrayal. She thought they'd support her, thought they'd hold space for her grief. But people who build identities around perfection don't leave room for public failure. Not spiritual influencers. Especially not when their entire persona is based on divine wisdom. Arlen ghosted her. Blocked her on everything. She didn't see that coming either. The last post he made before disappearing? A single quote on a black background. Not all soul contracts are meant to last. She spent 3 days spiraling. She came home in the middle of the night, quietly, like a thief returning to a place they once belonged. I watched her pull into the driveway from my hotel room window across the street. She stepped out barefoot, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her, dragging her suitcase like it weighed more than her convictions. The porch light flicked on automatically, but the house didn't welcome her back, because it wasn't hers anymore. Before she left for her soul retreat, I had already filed paperwork. Asset transfer. Account freezes. Name removals. We didn't share the house, not legally. I bought it 6 months before our wedding, and I'd kept it separate. She always teased me for being too paranoid, too 3D world-minded. Funny how that 3D world came back to bite her. I sent her a single text that night. The locks have been changed. Your things are boxed. I'll be in touch through my attorney. She replied, You can't just do this. Please. Can we talk? Then, I made a mistake. I was confused. Then, finally, I didn't think you'd actually leave. And that was the truth, wasn't it? She thought I'd stay. Thought I'd wait. Thought I'd orbit her forever like some loyal karmic moon while she danced naked under her stars with strangers and called it spiritual alignment. She thought she could rewrite our history because some deck of cards said so. But the cards didn't know me. I wasn't some passive earthbound partner. I was the one who stayed grounded long enough to watch her float away and then cut the cord when she drifted too far. I waited 3 days before going back to the house. She was gone. True to my word, I boxed up everything. Her crystals, her robes, her sacred altarpieces, her journals, each one filled with affirmations and manifestations and delusions about destiny. I stacked them in the foyer beside the door. But I left her one thing, one final reading. In a silk pouch on the hallway table, I left a single tarot card from her beloved deck. The Tower. Not reversed. Not softened. Just upright. A violent collapse. A crumbling of illusion. A reminder that the foundation she'd built her fantasies on wasn't strong enough to hold truth. Underneath the card, I left a note. Just 6 words. You pulled it. You live it. I walked through the house one last time. Touched the walls we painted together. Stared at the space where her altar used to be. The silence felt clean. Cleansed. I wasn't angry anymore. Not heartbroken either. Just done. She wanted a karmic lesson? Well, karma showed up. In silence. In logic. In absolute, inescapable truth. And me? I didn't need a deck of cards to tell me what to do next. I already knew. I'd never walk backward into her fantasy again. I'd only walk forward into reality. And she'd spend the rest of her life learning the difference between the two.
Dear listeners, please share your thoughts in the comments, and do not forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel.